All right, everybody, welcome into Around the Felt. We are on episode number 5 in season number 2. Today, we're going to be breaking down the NFC West, the 49ers happen to just be in this division. They were the Super Bowl runner-ups last year, so we're going to get into them and then the other 3 teams in it. But, Colin, how are we doing on a Sunday afternoon?
Good, man. It feels good to record on a Sunday. Yankees just got a nice win, so I'm in a good mood for this pod, Reagan.
Let's go. Could have been bad if the Yankees lost. We could have had an angry Colin. So
yeah, we could have been barking a little bit more.
We all avoided that. That is great. That is just great. And how about it, man? We're already halfway through the divisions, and eventually we're going to get into a fantasy one, and then soon enough, the season will be here.
I know, dude. I can't wait. I mean, these are fun for sure, but just excited for the season to start. We got preseason action in play, so at least we're getting a little bit of taste of football being back. But until then, we still got to do the preseason pods, talk about some teams, predict the future. But let's hit some news first, Reagan. Hollywood Brown, a shoulder injury, was in the hospital but got discharged going back to Kansas City. Could miss several weeks. Start of the season in jeopardy. How big of a hit is this for Kansas City's offense, in your opinion?
Yeah, I would say it's a pretty big issue. I mean, they obviously went out and paid him. He was kind of going to be that MVS role, but I think they were going to have a bigger plans, hoping for him to be more like Tyreek Hill than the MVS scale. But yeah, I mean, you hope he'll be good to start the season. That's why they went out and got Xavier Worthy, another burner. And obviously Rashid Rice, we don't even know. He might be suspended too. We still don't know about that situation. So not great. Not off to a hot start for the Chiefs. But then again, as long as they have Patrick Mahomes, not too worried about this team. But
yeah,
kind of sucks for fantasy. But then again, you could draft him late and have a guy that could be having a big impact later in the year because you got him at a value because maybe he misses a couple weeks to start the year.
Yeah, exactly. If you can take him a round or two after his ADP now due to the shoulder, fine with me. You know what I mean? Survive in advance for a week or two. He should be back relatively early. Speaking of wide receivers, JuJu Smith-Schuster, former Chiefs wide receiver, released by the Patriots. Mayo said he's still got a lot of ball left in him. They hope he gets healthy. So health obviously concern for JuJu. I think he's clearly going to end up with a contender, maybe San Francisco if they trade Aiyuk, maybe goes back to Kansas City with Hollywood banged up and the uncertainty with Rashid Rice. Do you see JuJu getting a job for any team soon? And if so, what teams pique your interest?
I mean, he's definitely going to get a job. I mean, that's no doubt. Contender, I don't know if he has the luxury to hold out for a contender. I think he'll take what he can get. He's definitely not what he once was, where he early in Pittsburgh. Not even close to that level.
No.
He's still top 3, top 4 guy on most teams. There's not many teams I could look at and be like, yeah, he'd be like 5th or 6th on the depth chart. But, I mean, and what were they saying? What was the quote last offseason? His knee could explode at any time.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, they did say his knee could explode at any time. Something's off there, but with the Patriots already giving that guaranteed money, like he could sign for the vet minimum somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I just don't know if, like, a lot of these contenders already have a pretty good core where I don't know if he actually adds a ton. Like, I think he may end up going to a team. Honestly, I could see your Giants going and making a push for him. I'm not going to lie.
I don't know, because, like, the Giants aren't in a win-now position, but they also have 3 young guys on top of the depth chart with Slayton, so it's like,
also not necessarily about a win-now thing. It's more so, like, putting your quarterback in the position to – because – a team like the Giants, like, you need to know if Daniel Jones is like the guy going forward, and like the best way to know
for the last 4 years.
Yeah, but I mean, you're back in that spot where this is a make or break year for him. So a team like that, at least adding a guy, like, you're putting him around the best talent possible. So, or at least if he fails, there's no excuses. It's just him. Where, you know, the excuse has always been not getting him the weapons. So, I mean, who else? I mean, Washington. You could go add another guy. Help out Jaden Daniels. I mean, you can look at some of the rookie team. I mean, the Broncos. You also could look at it from that perspective, trying to get a young quarterback, another weapon.
Yeah.
Although, then again, New England let him go. They had a young quarterback, not a lot of weapons. But
absolutely.
Then again, I guess you got Pop Douglas. You drafted Polk. There was one other
Baker.
receiver.
They got Baker as well.
So obviously they have a lot of young weapons there. So maybe they want to get them some more shine. But I don't know. Broncos, I could see.
Maybe back to Pittsburgh if they don't land Aiyuk, even though we're kind of expecting that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely possible. I mean, it's definitely a team that needs another wide receiver there. I don't know if you want to go into the year with the receiver core they have right now. I mean, George Pickens is awesome, but outside of that, a lot of
Yeah, a lot
question
of
marks.
yeah, absolutely. Other wide receiver news, Reagan, Jerry Jones and CeeDee Lamb. Jerry Jones saying there's no urgency to get a deal done before training camp. CeeDee Lamb puts on a story, LOL. Interesting. Seems like there's a lot of drama in Dallas before the season even starts, and Jerry Jones just can't keep his name out of the headlines, Reagan. Do you see CeeDee Lamb getting a deal done before the season? If not, could it affect Dallas early on?
Yeah, it would affect Dallas 100%, but I think when they'll get a deal done. I feel like in recent history, whenever we see this, it's pretty rare outside of Le'Veon Bell that the guy doesn't get the contract and doesn't play. It seems like it always trickles into the offseason and then in the training camp and preseason, but they end up getting that deal done before the season starts. I think Dallas and Jerry Jones is smart enough to know if they want to win a Super Bowl, which we could go back and forth debating if the team even is Super Bowl
They
contenders or
said they're
Super
all
Bowl
in, though. Jerry said we're all
pretenders.
in.
I mean,
Yeah.
they've been Super Bowl pretenders for what, 15, 20 years now. So we can go back and forth debating that aspect. But if they even want to have a chance to go anywhere, they need to pay CeeDee Lamb because I do not trust that wide receiver core going in without him.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. I mean, it's very top heavy with their weapons. With no CeeDee Lamb, I think Dallas is going to struggle a lot on offense. Just with
Yeah.
the offensive line being older, less experienced in some spots, losing Tyron Smith. You know, Zeke's back as your lead back, but his best days are behind him. So it would be a struggle for this offense if CeeDee Lamb is not in the lineup for sure.
Yeah.
What was that look for? You're saying Zeke's best days are still ahead of him? Dude, come on.
I'm not ruling it out,
Just because
man.
you like Zeke in fantasy doesn't mean his best
I
days
like Zeke
aren't
as a
still here,
player,
man.
man. I'm just, the Giants killer right there. It'll put a smile on my face when he puts up 4 touchdowns and 2 in each game against the Giants
Yeah.
this year. He's
Zeke
just
or,
always been
Zeke or Boston Scott. I don't know which one's a bigger giant killer.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. That wraps up the news. Dave, get in here. What do we got for questions?
It's not Dave, it's Drock.
All right, Drock.
Slam it!
Oh, and the gray beater.
I look disgusting right now. All right. Let's
No
get
one
into
cares,
it with
Dave.
our favorite Austie.
Austie.
Can the Cardinals make the playoffs this year?
No, next question.
Yes, they can.
Okay.
No, they 100% can make the playoffs
No,
this year.
I don't think they can
I'm
make
not
the playoffs.
I'm not projecting it, but they have made a lot of moves this offseason, Obviously getting Marvin Harrison is huge. Trey McBride is a stud. Now that he finally got to show it, I was harping on that early last year, and finally once they took Zach Ertz out, we were able to see that. So between those two weapons, you love that. They go and get Trey Benson in the draft. To pair him, or no, wait, yes, yeah, they did. What am I talking about? They get Trey Benson to pair with James Conner, so 2 good running backs there. I'm excited to see what Benson can do there, and he may even take the job, but we can get in that in a little bit. But I like the offense. If Kyler Murray can show any of that MVP form we saw a couple years back, where he was, playing at an MVP level, I think they could sneak in as one of the wild card teams. I mean, they definitely don't have the firepower to win a division, but to be the second or third wild card in the NFC, I definitely think they could do that. We've seen teams with worse rosters put it all together and kind of have the perfect game script with an easier schedule, get it done. So I'm not going to rule it out at all. If they were to get in, I'd say probably 10 wins is their max. Like that is their ceiling to me, just because the defense has a lot of issues still, but I don't hate the offense at all.
I think the offense has some nice pieces. I don't believe in it enough for them to be a playoff caliber team, given how bad the defense is. I don't think the offense can be good enough to carry the slack. The defense might be the worst in the league on paper. Offensively, yeah, I like Marv a lot. Connor had maybe his most productive season of his career last year, but he's always battled injuries. He's 28 years old now, so you never know there. When Kyler Murray's in the lineup, they do score more, and they did play really competitive ball last year. So I do believe in Jonathan Gannon as a coach. I just think they're a year away from really pushing for the playoffs. I think there's still too many holes here.
Hey, let's not forget they beat. I mean, what was it? 3 of their 4 wins were against playoff teams between the Steelers, Eagles, and Cowboys.
Cowboys, yeah.
And it's kind of hilarious that a team
dude,
as bad as they were last year, and the Josh Dobbs magic now that he goes to the 49ers, which actually underrated pickup on their part there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be tough, but there's definitely a world where they can make the playoffs. I'm curious what the odds are on that.
I mean, with a 6.5 win total, it's got to be pretty juicy, like plus.
Yeah. I mean, because the win total
5.
obviously is very telling about it, but the fact that they're in the NFC, which is obviously weaker than the AFC, Definitely. Let me pull it up real quick. But Austin, it definitely is a good question. I guess maybe I'm a little more bullish on them than Colin is, but still, I'm not super bullish on them.
You're asking for the odds for the Niners to make the playoffs?
No, the
No,
Cardinals.
the Cardinals, dude. The
Oh.
question you asked.
What are the Niners like minus 1,000?
Yeah, like what?
So they're minus 525. Cardinals are shit, I just saw it.
Probably the first one that pops up. I believe it goes in alphabetical order.
They're plus 300 to make.
+3. Honestly, I thought it'd be more juicy.
As I'm saying, it's not as crazy as you think with how weak the
Not
NFC is.
not a line I would touch personally.
No, I wouldn't touch it, but I definitely think there's a world they can make it. There's only a few teams I can think you can say will not make it, like the Patriots and the Broncos, probably the Raiders.
I don't know. Bo Nix looked pretty good in preseason today.
Yeah, he did. He did.
If the 49ers lose Aiyuk, does this hurt them winning the Super Bowl this year?
I mean, of course, he led the league in yards per catch last year. He was one of the most efficient wide receivers. Just the Niners throw the ball the least amount of any team in the league. Hence why his counting stats aren't up there with the guys like CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill in the bunch. He still had over 1,300 yards. Like, he's an absolute stud, and having him and Debo together with Kittle, like, that trio is up there amongst the best trios in the league. So losing him and relying on Pearsall, who a lot of people thought was a reach in the draft and has the physical tools, never really put it together in college. Relying on a rookie to step into that role for a high-powered offense that has the roster to go win a Super Bowl certainly hurts their chances. Do I still think they can go through the NFC and go to the Super Bowl again? Absolutely. But yeah, it would definitely hurt their chances in my mind.
I mean, yeah, it's not gonna help their chances. I do think if they are to lose him and they don't replace him, they're not a shoe-in for the Super. Like, it really depends, because if they lose him and they're able to replace him with someone like even close to his level, then I don't
like
think
Amari
it's gonna hurt.
Cooper. I saw that floated around.
Yeah, so they go get Amari Cooper. I really don't look at them any differently. But if they're to lose Aiyuk and don't replace him at all, I don't know if you could say for certain they're the best team in the NFC anymore. I think you can make a case for the Eagles and the Lions.
Yeah.
Because then Kittle, there's that much more focus on him. Is Debo going to be as dynamic? Is everything going to be open for CMC? When you have a burner like that, it's going to put more pressure on those other guys, and they're not going to have as much open stuff. Obviously, those guys are freak talents, but taking a guy like Aiyuk, who had a crazy season last year, off the field and not replacing it, it's going to be very damaging to this offense.
Does Puka have a better or worse season than last year?
I mean, I think he's going to have it's tough because he had the most receiving yards for a rookie in NFL history. So you'd expect him to get better, but also Kupp wasn't himself last year. He missed a few games, and then he came back, and their target shares kind of got different. Higbee's now out with the ACL. We don't know when he's coming back. They still run the ball at a really efficient rate, but I think he's going to have somewhat similar, but I'll go a little bit worse on the counting stats, but he could be more efficient while doing it.
Yeah, I would definitely say, like, I'm a big Puka guy, but I'd say he's doesn't get 100 catches, less yards, more touchdowns, though. I do think he'll be a double-digit touchdown guy this year. So I think the touchdowns are up, but the yards and catches are down. I think teams will just more adjust for it. He had a couple big breakaway plays last year. I remember one comes to mind against the Giants where it's like a broken play and 80 yards right there. I don't think you get those freak plays where all it takes is one missed tackle and you're gone. And he did get chased down too. That's the funniest part. He got like tackled at the 2-yard line. But I think a lot of that will be accounted for. But I think touchdowns will be up completely. And I think just Kupp being healthy let's not forget the guy won the Triple Crown 2 years ago.
Yep. And that's Stafford's best friend,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
2 fantasy questions. Is Marvin Harrison Jr. going to be a top 20 in fantasy this year?
I mean, I'd say wide receiver, yeah. I'd say you could even say it'll probably be top 20 flex and 20 wide receiver, in my opinion. I think all platforms. I think we've seen what Kyler did for DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I'm totally buying into the prospect of him. I would be shocked, barring injury, that he doesn't go over 1,000 yards and close to double-digit touchdowns this year. I mean, I don't know how many receptions he'll get, but I think he'll have a lot of big plays. So if I was projecting it, I'd say 70 catches, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns.
I think he'll be a wide receiver 2. So I think he'll be outside the top 12, but I think he'll be top 20. It's just really difficult for a rookie wide receiver to step in and do it. Like, the only guy that's done it in recent memory is Jamar Chase. that's
What
getting
about Puka?
that got drafted so high. No, they got
Oh,
drafted
oh.
high. Yeah, they got drafted highly. So just the first round receivers, especially like in the top 10, like not even Julio Jones did it. Not even OBJ did it because he missed a few games. Like it's just really rare.
Really? OBJ didn't?
No, because he missed 4 games to start the season.
Still, he still had like 1,300
on a per game basis, but not like total season.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you miss a couple games, and that'll definitely knock you
Yeah,
out.
I mean, me personally, like his ADP in redraft leagues, I'm not taking him there just because he has to have an all-time rookie season for him to make it worth being selected as a top 10 wide receiver. I know he's got a lot of hype right now, but being picked in the 20s or 30s is too rich for me. Like Jamar Chase got picked in like the 50s, and he had one of the best rookie seasons from anybody all time. So I wouldn't take him at his ADP, but yeah, I think he's going to eclipse 1,000 yards as a rookie.
And I'd say the ADPs like that because of guys like Chase and Jefferson, where they were going later, and then they proved, hey, they spent the capital on me, and I'm going to go out there and get it done.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The talent's there, so it's not like, oh, well, maybe not year one. I think a lot of these rookie wide receivers have proven that they can break out in year one and be top fantasy guys in year one. So I think that kind of speaks to why the ADP is what it is.
Where should you draft Puka and Kyron Williams in the redraft leagues this season?
I'd say
round 2.
Yeah, round 2. I mean, I know they're both going there. I wouldn't reach on either of them in the first round just because there's so many between those two and Cup, and I'm not worried about Blake Corum, but he'll be involved in some sense. So I would definitely temper expectations with Kyron. I'd say he's going to be more of that, back end of the top 12 running backs than the top end because of the fact that Corum will have a role. And then with Puka, the same thing. Like Cup will be more involved, where I don't think he'll be like a top 5, but he'll probably be in that like top 8. So to me, I'm taking him mid to early second round. I mean, the earliest I would draft either of them is maybe pick 12, but I'm probably not touching him till early second round.
Yeah, I agree 100%. With Kyron Williams, he's not a big back. He's only 5'9", and he's had durability concerns already throughout his 2 years. So although on a per game basis, he was RB2 last year behind McCaffrey, just the fragility with him is not ideal. And then when you take a running back in the 3rd round that they said they want to lower Kyron's workload a little bit because he is a smaller back, like, yeah, he might be more efficient, but I don't think he's going to get the same number of touches that he got last year. So for me, if you're taking Kyron based off what he did last year and you select him at the back end of the first round, I think you're going to regret it. I think he's solid in round 2. I mean, I got him in a dynasty startup the top of round 4 of super flex, but I felt like that was a pretty good spot to get him given his production and the workload that he got. But also I want Blake Corum too. If I have Kyron, I want that handcuff just in case, because Kyron Williams is most likely to miss a few games.
All right, let's hop to Garrett now. Garrett had sent me questions. How good can Trey McBride be this season?
Garrett loves McBride. He's got him.
I love him too, Garrett. I'd say the number 1 fantasy tight end is his ceiling. That's why his ADP is so high. I've seen him going like as early as late 3rd round. So there's a reason why. It's because the ceiling is that high. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he couldn't be better than Laporta and Kelsey. Those are the only 2 going ahead of him right now. I believe he's the number 3 in most platforms. I mean, depending on bonuses and all that stuff. I know him and Andrews were very similar spots, but Andrews coming off the injury, plus with the emergence of Likely last year, I'd much rather have McBride in the youth with less weapons there and a more pass-friendly offense. So to me, I would say his potential is the top fantasy tight end.
Yeah, that's definitely his ceiling. Kyler Murray loves throwing the tight ends. He had a great relationship with Zach Ertz while he was in Arizona, and when he got back from injury last year, he hit McBride a ton. So I think outside of Marv, you really don't believe in anyone else in that wide receiver room. So McBride is clearly the number 2, if not the 1B target in that offense. So I like McBride a lot, and he's a good guy to target in redraft leagues.
What round would you draft him in fantasy?
McBride?
Yeah.
I would draft him in redrafts as early as round 3.
I personally don't like taking tight ends that high. I think like round 4 to 6 is kind of my sweet spot. So if I could wait on a guy and get like, I don't know, if Andrews is still on the board 6 picks later, I'm fine taking Andrews. I don't know. I 4 to 6 for
not,
me.
Though.
4 to
like
6.
I would
4 to
not
6
take like if Andrews is there 6 to 8 picks after. I'm not. I mean, that's just Andrews in general. I wouldn't be targeting just because of the fact that I think likely he's going to have a bigger role this year.
Yeah,
So
but
I'm
Andrew
not.
still led the Ravens in receiving touchdowns last year, and he missed like 7 games.
No, I understand
Lamar
that.
loves targeting him in the red zone.
I
In
get
particular.
that, but I'd rather the guy that doesn't have another tight end there that's going to be taking reps from him. Like, I understand that he'll still be good for fantasy, but I'd rather the guy with the youth and not the younger guy behind him that I think will carve out a bigger role this year. Like, I don't think Andrews' snap percentages will be as high. It'll still be it doesn't, and it still doesn't matter what they're at. He's going to still get his. I just don't know if he has that top tight end ceiling like he once had.
Fair.
Is JSN ready to take a big year 2 jump?
I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't love Geno after seeing it last year. I'm not fully sold on the offense in general. I mean, I'll talk about that later. Seattle scares me this year. I mean, Lockett's still there, still going to be heavily involved. Metcalf's obviously a stud. So unless they trade one of them at the deadline or one of them gets injured, I mean, he's going to be the number 3 wide receiver on an offense I really don't like and don't have a lot of faith in this year. So
Yeah, I mean, he had
maybe
628 yards as a rookie, 4 touchdowns, 63 catches. Not great numbers given the draft capital they invested into him, but I do think I like that Pete Carroll's gone because I think they're going to open up the offense more. Like when you take a receiver in the first round and be your wide receiver 3, you think they'd air it out a little bit more, but Pete Carroll just loved running the football. I agree with you, Reagan. I don't believe in Geno Smith. He had that 1-year wonder, lost his coordinator, and he was just bad last year. Not nearly the same player he was in 2022. Don't believe in him, but I think the offensive situation gets better. Lockett had his worst season in like 7 or 8 years last year, so I don't know. I think JSN's got to step into that number 2 role. I think he will have better counting stats this year, but I don't think he'll get that level where he's like 1,000-yard receiver and looked upon as one of the best young receivers in the league. I don't think that jump happens this year, but I think he'll be more productive.
Is Geno Smith still a good quarterback, or do you think he'll be the reason the Seahawks don't make the playoffs?
He's average, and I think he will be the reason. I think it's the same. I view him the same way I view some other quarterbacks in the league, kind of like the Deshaun Watson, the Daniel Jones. Who else? They're Derek Carr at this point. I mean, guys that we've seen be elite, and they're the reason that their team won't be able to get to the next level. They have some talented guys, but it's going to be holding them back. And even if they do get into the playoffs, like you're never going to win a Super Bowl with Geno Smith. The defense isn't good enough. It's not the Legion of Boom Seahawks. So I think this will be a team that ends up in the bottom 10, potentially bottom 5 in the NFL. Wow. And they will be having another quarterback under center next year, Geno Smith, because I believe the contract, and I'll go to you because you're in finance, so you probably have a better idea of this, but I believe the contract is structured similarly to the Daniel Jones one, where it's easy for them to get out after this year.
Yeah, absolutely. They can get out after this year. Yeah, and I believe it was only a 3-year deal.
Yeah.
So last year was year 1. This is year 2. There's no way they still have guarantee money built in the last year.
Yeah, and even if they do, maybe he stays on the roster as a backup, but it's a quarterback competition if they draft a rookie next year.
Absolutely.
Similar to he was the Jets quarterback where he was on the roster and lost in a competition.
I agree. Across the board.
You're muted, brother.
Last question of the night.
You got any lip readers out there watching on the YouTube?
The Rams try to trade up in the draft to take Bowers. If this happened, how good do you think Brock would have turned out to be?
Better than he will with Oakland. I mean, Matt Stafford's a hell of a lot better than Aiden O'Connell and
Sean McVay's awesome at scheming up his guys as well. He also is in an offense where you got Kupp and Nacua outside of you, so he would have one-on-one situations built into the middle of the field. I think he would have feasted in that offense.
Yeah, plus I like you said, McVay, and I expect the Rams to score a hell of a lot more points than them. But also, let's not forget, like, the Raiders have Michael Mayer, who they spent a second-round pick on the year prior, and I believe he was also what's the tight end? The Belindikoff Award? That's the best tight end, correct?
Yeah. And also, he's also in the Hall of Fame for the wheel as well.
I was going to say.
2,800 cash.
What Hall of Fame you were going to say, but I was going to, he is in the Hall of Fame of the wheel. So bullshit that he lost, that they drafted Brock Bowers. He should be a Ram, and our precious Michael Mayer should be the starting tight end of the Raiders.
Yeah, it's actually screwed up, man. They don't understand.
How they doing our boy like that?
Michael Mayer
tight
ends
kind of print money if you think about it with the wheel. Like we hit Goddard, we hit Knox, believe we hit Njoku once. I mean,
Yeah.
the boys
Yeah, we
really
hit
sprint the
Njoku when we
money.
were in the city. Yeah, dude. The wheel
Or no,
loves tight
wait,
ends.
did we? No, wait, or is that? No, we did hit Njoku.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Oh, and
Njoku.
Kittle. I heard Garrett just hollered,
Yeah,
and Laporta. That was the night.
and Laporta.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude.
so I guess the way to make money on the wheel is just root for tight ends. Maybe we should load that bitch with tight ends next year and
Yeah,
just
absolutely. The
let it
Raiders play
roll.
both tight ends are on the board for sure. For sure. They have to be. They have to be. All right. You ready to talk some Arizona Cardinals?
I am. We might as well. I think
Right?
better days ahead for this team.
Better days ahead. 4-13 season last year for the Cardinals. Obviously, it was never going to be a good season with Kyler Murray set to miss a big portion of the year. The defense, with all the holes that it had, the win total for this year is set at 6.5. Some key losses: left tackle DJ Humphries, Hollywood Brown, and Rondell Moore. Some key adds: Jonah Williams moving over to the right tackle for the Cardinals, Justin Jones, Sean Murphy Bunting, Mac Wilson. Not a lot addressed on the defense in my mind here. Not very optimistic on the Cardinals. Reagan, you said they could make the playoffs, but what record did you realistically get them for this?
Yeah, I have them going 7-10, so I'm taking their win total over. I mean, the biggest reason is you won 4 games last year. Obviously, I believe half was with Kyler, but still, Kyler Murray is way better and a guy that we've seen play at an MVP level. So I have a lot of faith in him. The fact that they went out and got a guy like Marvin Harrison in the first round, they actually had a lot of picks this year. A lot of it is due to the fact that they traded back last year with the Texans. Bet they didn't expect to be picking 27 in the first round when they made that trade. But, they went out and got Darius Robinson out of Missouri, so hopefully he can help with the edge and get some pressure. They got a local kid in Max Melton, the corner out of Rutgers, so hopefully between those two they can have an impact. I was talking about Trey Benson before. He's a guy I'm definitely targeting in Dynasty because while he might not have a big role this year, per se, because James Conner obviously proved last year, like you highlighted, career year, he still has something left in the tank. But I do think Trey Benson will be involved. He's a guy I'd take late in best ball drafts as well, and they'll have a chance James Conner is to get injured / lose his job.
Which he's missed multiple games every year. So
yeah. So Trey Benson's definitely a guy I'm targeting in best ball because even if you get him in a spot start 1 week, he may end up being one of your top 2 running backs. Dynasty is a must draft. Dude was a big part of the reason Florida State was so good last year running the ball. But yeah. So I got them going 7-10. I mean, the defense scares me a little bit, but the schedule's kind of middle of the pack to me. And a lot of it goes into Kyler Murray. As long as he stays healthy, I don't see how this team doesn't at least win 7 games.
Yeah, I got them I was going back and forth between 7-10, 6-11. I ultimately settled on 6-11 just because the defense, man, I just don't believe in it. I do believe in Gannon as a coach, so I think he's going to start to get his guys in the room and they're going to figure it out. But there's just too many holes for me. Something that worries me, though, is Kyler signed the extension after his rookie deal, and now those low cap hits after the first 2 years of the extension are non-existent. His cap hit for 2024 is $49 million. For next year, it's $45. The year after, it's $55. So it's going to be more difficult for them to build out this roster around him. They did win 3 games once Kyler returned in Week 10, and their offense was humming. So I do like that. They did add to the running back room. They had the number 1 rushing offense in terms of yards per carry once Kyler returned. And him himself, even recovering from the knee, wasn't his normal rushing ability. So I think with Kyler well rested off the knee, adding Benson, this run offense is going to be awesome. Also, fantasy in terms of points per game for quarterbacks, Kyler's finished as a QB 12, 5, 4, 9, and 10 over his career in his healthy seasons. In per game basis. So I love Kyler for fantasy. Love Marv, but Kyler's got to stay healthy again. Connor's got to stay healthy. We already touched on Trey McBride.
Wait, speaking of Trey McBride real quick, bro, he is a sneaky pick to lead the league in receptions this year.
He had 81 last year.
81 last year. But once he had 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 4, 3. Then once Kyler took over, 10, 3, 8, 5, 7, 8, 10, 6, 6, 3. So he had 81 last year, but with all of the production, like more than 75% of the production with Kyler. So
wow. Yeah. No, that's
and think about it. Not only Kyler took over, but he also took over the starting job. I mean, he had 5, 6, 10. Yeah, 12 in the 7 games with Dobbs, he had 12 catches.
Wow.
So 69 catches in the last 10 games.
I mean, that just shows you how high his ceiling could be for tight end. Like tight end 1 is certainly in play.
He could be the tight end 1, bro. He had 69 catches in the last 10 games.
Yeah.
And all
I
of
know,
his touchdowns
absolutely.
came in the last 10 games. He only had 3, but still. And like all of his yards, he didn't have one game over. His best game was 62 yards. After that, he had multiple over 100 yards. So I'm not trying to cut you off, but I had to say that about Trey McBride.
No, that's a
Ceiling
good
is
stat, bud.
the number 1 fantasy tight end, and I think it's worth a sprinkle on him to lead the league in receptions this year.
I wonder what the
Just
odds
a
are on that.
sprinkle. Just a sprinkle. Maybe if our tech guy could look that up while we're chit-chatting, that'd be legendary.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So yeah, just to wrap up why I only have them winning 6 games. They had the second worst pressure rate last season, only had 33 sacks. They were 29th in ESPN's run stop win rate. They didn't really do a ton to build up that defense. BJ Ojulari had 4 sacks in his rookie season's already out for the year with a knee injury, so they lost some depth. Zaven Collins, another first-round linebacker taken. You know how much I hate that. Transitioned to edge last season, and he was just not good. Buda Baker is like the only legitimate player in this defense, making his 5th straight Pro Bowl last season, but even he didn't want to be there before last season started. So, I mean, their best pass rusher only had 6 sacks, but Dennis Gardeck did have an 18.3% pressure rate, which was 3rd best among edge rushers. So maybe he's a little unlucky, and he gets that sack number closer to double digits this year. I don't know, dude. It's just a very bad defense. I think this team will be a lot of shootouts, so I love their offense for fantasy purposes, but 6 wins is all I got for them this year.
Yeah, and speaking of fantasy, Michael Wilson's another guy that's a sleeper. Definitely target him late for best ball in fantasy leagues because, like Colin just highlighted, the defense is going to be terrible. A lot of shootouts this year. So Michael Wilson's a guy that kind of came on late last year. The Capital, I mean, they spent a 3rd-round pick on him, but stats-wise, I just had it in my notes. Oh, man, I'm terrible with this. But anyway, he's a guy I'd be targeting in fantasy just because he is a number 2 wide receiver there. Obviously, Hollywood's gone. I mean, we've seen Greg Dortch. I'm not really expecting big things out of him.
No,
So
he
on a
won't be
team,
fantasy relevant.
no, I don't think so at all. So, yeah, Michael Wilson. I mean,
he was
38
good last year,
catches,
Michael Wilson.
565 yards, 3 touchdowns. So nothing great. But then for a day 3 pick, it's not bad. It's not like we're talking about a day 1 pick here. Or I'm sorry, day 2 pick, round 3 pick. But still, it's not like we're talking about a guy with a lot of capital. It's just a guy with a good situation where I think is worth taking a dart throw in redraft leagues, best ball leagues, and dynasty. Well, in dynasty, he's not in your waivers, but guy I would go and look to acquire for the cheap.
All right, MVP, Reagan, go.
Yeah, it's Kyler Murray. I mean, this team goes as far as he goes. It was pretty clear. They were able to beat some good teams once Kyler came back. The offense was in a way better spot when he was there versus Josh Dobbs. Obviously, that's the reason he got paid the big bucks. He's a guy we've seen play at an MVP level before. The 1st overall pick. Did he make the right decision to play in the NFL? I'd say yes. Pocket says yes, but I guess he could have been a streamer, been playing MLB. But yeah, he's my MVP.
I agree. X Factor.
So there's a couple different options you could go here, but I'm going to go with Trey McBride. He's my X Factor. If he can continue on from last year, build off of it, be a 100-catch guy, over 1,000 yards, be Kyler Murray's top target, where I think Marvin Harrison will probably have more yards, but I think McBride will be more of the safety blanket. It could be huge for this offense.
Yeah, I like that approach. I went with Kyler as the X Factor and MVP. For me, he's struggled with injuries every year in his career. He's not a big guy. Usually around November, December hits, and he's dealing with something in his lower half. And it just really affects their offense as a whole. And they can't afford that this year, given the state of their defense. So Kyler Murray staying healthy, becoming more of a leader for a young team is the X Factor for me. Rookie of the year, I got Marv. I mean, one of the best wide receiver prospects in recent memory. They have a couple guys that should be seeing immediate playing time in Darius Robinson, Max Melton, Trey Benson, maybe not, but Elijah Jones, a corner they took out of BC, was also really good. So they could have 4 guys starting on this team, but I think Marv is a shoo-in for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I could go with Marv. I'm just going to go a little cheeky here. I'm going to go with Darius Robinson, just the fact that this team lacks edge help. So if he can step in and be, I don't know, put up 8, 9 sacks, maybe even push the double-digit mark, that'll be huge for this defense. It lacks a lot of talent. So I think there's so much more potential for him to make a bigger impact year 1. Whether or not he's the better player long-term, it's just this defense lacks talent. So they'll take what they can get. And 10 sacks from him could be huge and the difference maker in a lot of these games.
Absolutely. Depoy, Buda Baker, 5 straight Pro Bowls. A team that lacks a lot of talent on that side of the ball. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if you could make a case for anyone else.
Yeah, you really can't. You really can't.
No, I'm not. I'm not even going to bother. I'm not even going to try to bother.
Drox Locks, what we got? You're muted again, buddy. Jesus, figure it out.
Sorry, gentlemen. Been
All
ripping
right,
ass
leave
the
and
whole
come back
fucking
in.
time.
Leave and come back in. Leave and come back in.
All right, fine. I'll leave.
Yeah, what the hell was that, dude? Just embarrassing himself.
Boo! I'm
Yeah, there we go.
freaking hideous.
No.
Doo-doo-doo.
Oh, there's a
I
trade.
have Marvin Harrison Jr. to score 12 plus receiving touchdowns at plus 1,000. Yes.
Ooh, I like that one. I mean, he did it back-to-back years in college in a very crowded offense, and that was with CJ Stroud and then without CJ Stroud for a quarterback that got shipped off to Syracuse because he wasn't even going to start this year. So he is a phenomenal downfield threat. It's a team that desperately needs someone to catch the football. So I like that at plus 1,000.
Yeah, no, that's definitely going to be a lot. I think this offense will be one of the top 10s in points per game, but the defense will be bottom 5. So, like you highlighted earlier, a lot of points. I think there's going to be a lot of garbage time potential where you might get her 1 or 2 by the end of the year. It's fourth quarter, they're down 20 points, and Marvin Harrison catches a garbage time touchdown, and Scott Hansen cuts to it because it's a fantasy stream on Red Zone, and sure enough, so I like it, Drock.
I like it, Drock. All right, the Seattle Seahawks, Reagan, a team you were high on last year. They only have a 7.5 win total this year. Some key losses: Jamal Adams, Damian Lewis, Quandre Diggs, Jordan Brooks, Bobby Wagner. Some key adds: Jerome Baker, Rayshon Jenkins, George Fant. A lot of losses, a lot of names. Guys that have been there for a while in Diggs and Adams and Lewis, Brooks, Wagner, a second stint. I don't know, man. I think their roster is worse on paper than what it was last year. A 7.5 win total. Do they eclipse that this year, Reagan?
No, I got them going 6-11, dude. I actually have them finishing in the bottom 5 this year. Going to be one of the worst teams in the NFC, in my opinion. I'm not high on them at all. I mean, you just highlighted all the losses. I do not believe in Geno Smith at all. I actually do believe in the talent of Mike McDonald, but I mean, think about it. He's coming into one of those situations where, yeah, it's an attractive job. Obviously, Seattle's had a lot of recent success, but he's not coming in with his guys. So I think it's one of those ones where it's a terrible year, and then next year he makes a case, hey, I didn't have my quarterback. I want to go get my guys. I wouldn't be shocked if they're one of the biggest sellers at the deadline. And one of two out of Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Probably Tyler Lockett, not DK, just because he's still young and, you want to build around him. But I wouldn't be shocked at all if Lockett's dealt at the deadline to a contender. Defense really lacks a lot of talent. I mean, last year I was highlighting how many big name players they had, and most of those guys were cooked. They really were. And obviously, one of the biggest debates in, why am I blanking out on his name? The corner. Oh my gosh. Tyreek Woolen. Thank you. Obviously, Tyreek Woolen, everyone was like, oh, he's one of the best corners in the league. Well, sure enough, he was benched. They only had him on punts at times in the season. So he took a major step back from year one. Everyone was crying about how he should have been the rookie of the year. Well, how did that work out?
Yeah, Mr. Jets fan is pissed. It was always Sauce Gardner.
It was always Sauce. But then again, I'd be hyped for a 5th-round pick having that big of an impact. But, that's another guy that took a step back. Obviously, they found a diamond in the rough in Julian Love. He's a stud. He ended up working out huge for them. And I believe they paid him a decent-sized contract in the offseason.
Yeah, they did give him a decent-sized contract.
That actually ended up being one of their best defensive players last year when they kind of brought him in to be one of those rotational depth pieces.
Yeah, well, Julian Love just has a lot of versatility. He played outside corner in college. He can play in the slot. He can play other safety positions. So
yeah,
it was very much needed in that secondary. Jamal Adams just was not healthy again.
Yeah,
all right, go ahead. Continue.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, I got him 6-11.
Yeah, I got 8 and 9. I think they're around 500. I like a lot of the pieces that they have. It's just about putting it together, and Geno kind of rebounding off a bad year last year. I mean, through 10 fewer touchdowns last season, completion rate dropped 5%. Is that a product of the coordinator? Is that a product of the offensive line in front of them? The offensive line ranked 25th in ESPN's pass block win rate. Cross missed 3 games. Abraham Lucas only played in 6. Those 2 young tackles they had the year before that showed promise. Cross allowed 42 pressures in 14 games. Not good. Lucas did not look as good. The interior offensive line is bad. We talked about Lockett earlier, one of his worst seasons since he's been in the league. JSN, as a rookie, would like to see more. Kenneth Walker had a almost identical season stat-wise to his rookie year with 1,600 total yards, 9 touchdowns. 1,200 total yards, 9 touchdowns last year. Charbonnet came in 671 and 1 touchdown as a rookie. I didn't like that draft pick. Back-to-back years taking a running back in the second round when you could easily use that to address a more premium position when you have a running back on a rookie deal. It just didn't really make sense to me. Defensively, I like Witherspoon. He's a Pro Bowler as a rookie, 4th in defensive rookie of the year, 16th in yards allowed per coverage snap. Woolen, he did get benched, but the back half of the season, he was a lot better in coverage. He just only had 2 interceptions after he had all those his rookie year. So he certainly took a step back, which was not ideal. You already touched on Julian Love. He was awesome all over the field. They gave up a second-round pick for Leonard Williams, so they had to pay him this offseason. He had 4 sacks in 10 games in Seattle, which is good. Draymond Jones, 4.5 sacks from the interior, but then they drafted Byron Murphy, who was a stud at Texas, but he's in the interior, and you just re-signed Leonard Williams. You have Draymond Jones. So I don't know how big his role is going to be this year, but I think next year he'll be an every down player for them. And he's young. He was only 20 years old last year, second best of the Power 5 in pass rush rate from the interior. So I did like that pick a lot for Seattle. They took Christian Haynes, in the third round, guard out of UConn. So small school, but he was a stud for UConn, and he only played 4 games against Power 5 teams. Did not blow any blocks in traditional pass pro, which is three or more steps. So potential diamond in the rough there for Seattle. They need it along the offensive line. I just think it's a very average team with an average quarterback leading the charge. Rookie head coach. We'll see how it works out. I think their ceiling is 10 wins. Their floor is 6, but I have them right in the middle now, 8 and 9.
Yeah, I think 100% that Sam Howell will be playing a couple of games this year. I think it'll be closer to the end of the year. Gino won't be playing good. He'll get benched. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets benched multiple times throughout the year for Sam Howell. I really don't believe in him. I think that's kind of why they went out and got Sam Howell for cheap because, hey, clearly Gino's not it at this point. And even if he's it enough, they're never winning a Super Bowl with him at quarterback. So I think we'll see a little bit of Sam Howell this year. I didn't even talk about Byron Murphy. I know you just brought him up. Dude's a stud. I think he's a guy that could potentially win the defensive rookie of the year. I think the only thing will be holding him back is the depth chart. But at that point, it was a value pick. He was a guy I thought was going to go earlier than 16. But, Seattle was smart. They went best available. So I like that aspect. But the offensive line, I don't like.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
Really
I almost thought Murphy could have gone 8 to Atlanta.
Yeah, no, I did too. Probably should have gone 8 to Atlanta. Because that's a terrible defense, and we already talked about that. But
yeah,
nobody will be saying shit if Penix is a starting quarterback and they're elite 2 or 3 years from now. It won't matter. But for now, we'll shit on that pick.
Okay, your MVP for the Seattle Seahawks.
So my MVP, I kind of went back and forth with a couple guys, but I went with DK. He's a guy who we've seen show flashes of elite, but he needs to be continue that on. He needs to be the most important player on this offense. I know Gino's not going to be it, but if DK can be one of those guys where he's going out and getting a bunch of touchdowns, a lot of yards, keeps his head clear, doesn't let divisional game get him ejected or make it evident like he has in the past that he is frustrated unless it ruined the game. But he's my MVP because when he's at his best, he is the best player on this offense.
Wow, I agree. I also have DK Metcalf. He last year became much more of a deep ball guy, so his receptions were down. I'd like to see him run more of a route tree, similar with JSN too. It's like, all right, DK go deep, JSN run a short route, and then Lockett kind of work the middle. I'd like to see them diversify a little bit. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. When DK is playing elite ball, which he's shown us he can do, he just hasn't been consistent enough. He's one of the top receivers in the game and could be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy purposes as well. But the consistency is not there. But if this team is going to make the playoffs, DK Metcalf has to be the guy running this offense and really demanding all the pressure from the secondary. And then you have guys like JSN who could take that second-year breakout. DK's got to be that alpha number 1 for this team to go where it wants to go.
Yeah.
X Factor.
Yeah, mine is Witherspoon. I have him as the X Factor because obviously in year 1, he had a great year. Could have been the rookie of the year last year. Obviously, Will Anderson won it. But if he is able to take that next step and get to the point where he is a lockdown where, hey, he's got half the field taken care of, it makes up for a lot of those other holes in the secondary as well as throughout this defense. But it takes a lot of pressure off the defense and a lot off the offense because if the defense is getting off the field because this guy's shutting down number 1 wide receivers on all the teams, it's going to be huge. It really is. And I think he has the potential to do it, and that's why you took him in the top 5. So he really needs to take that next step and get to the Sauce Gardner, Pat Surtain, Jalen Johnson level where you know for a fact he is shutting down that receiver or limiting him, and you don't have to worry about giving him that second man.
Yeah, that's a good one. I went with the offensive line, but in particular, the two young tackles, Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. Both were beat up last year. Both looked worse than they did as rookies, which was rare. It looked like Seattle really crushed that draft, but they're both still young players. But if they can take that next step and protect Geno Smith on both sides, it could be huge for this offense because they do have the skill position talent to put up a lot of points. But if Geno's pressured, which he's terrible under pressure, one of the worst statistically in the league, it's going to be a problem for this offense. So those two young tackles taking the next step, staying healthy, being consistent is huge for this offense. Rookie of the year.
Yeah, I'm not going to overthink it. Byron Murphy. I think the dude is going to be a stud this year. I think whether he might start the year as a rotational guy, talent will win out. He will be having a big impact down the second half of the season when he forces them to become the starter. He's going to be their best player on the D-line, no doubt in my mind. And pairing him with Leonard Williams, that'll be real nice. I'm excited for that, for what they can do with that.
Yeah, I love Murphy long-term. I went with Christian Haynes. I think he's going to start right away, where Murphy's going to start rotational, a couple vets ahead of him. I do agree with you that I think at some point in the season, Murphy will become that number 2 guy playing next to Leonard Williams almost every down, but he's still a young player. I don't see it coming out of the gate, where I think Christian Haynes is just going to start right away, and they're going to need him to be very, very dependent in the interior of their offensive line. Depoy, I got Devon Witherspoon, Pro Bowler last year. He was a stud, forced a ton of turnovers, good in the run game as well. I think he's just a Swiss Army knife for that secondary, playing in the nickel as well. I love Devon Witherspoon. I think he's going to be their best defensive player this year.
Yeah, I mean, I already went on my rant about him for the X Factor, but he is also my Depoy. He's obviously the best player on this defense right now. The defense goes as far as he does. If he takes a step back, I think this is going to be a bottom 5 defense this year. If he can play at an elite level, I mean, this is a team that could be pushing top 16 level. So I'm not going to act like if he becomes a shutdown corner, it's going to fix everything, but it'll definitely hide a lot of the holes in this defense and make up for a lot of stuff that it's lacking.
Drock, get in here. What's your lock?
Drock baby's back.
Just say the lock, brother.
No, I like that. I like that.
Didn't make you laugh. I got to bring some humor into this, because my fans love me for who I am, not for fucking all these stats and shit. All right, let's get into it.
I agree. He's a fucking nerd.
DK Metcalf's total regular season receiving yards over 950. If you can find 1,000, take that. So yeah, it's at 950, but if you can find 1,000, slam it. It will get you plus money.
Yeah, that's like really low.
950, huh?
I mean, that's like all you're asking for is like, I'm not a math guy, but that's only got to be like 58 or 59. Like that's not even 60 yards a game.
Yeah, I'm curious what he's done in his career. Let's see. Last year he had 11. He had 1,114. The year before 1,048. The year before 967. The year before 1,300. The year before 900.
So he's hit that every year, but his rookie year.
Year, he's hit that every year, but his rookie year. I like 1,000 too. He's hit it 3 out of his 4 years.
That's kind of scary though. Why is the line so low?
He's eclipsed 1,000 both years with Geno. Actually, he had 66 catches last year for 1,114. The year before, he had 90 catches, 24 more catches, but only had 1,048 yards. So he had more yards last year on 24 less receptions. That just shows you how they were using him as just a huge deep threat, where I think that number could be higher if he's worked more in the intermediate part of the field and could work after the catch.
Yeah, it's only 50, 55, almost 56 yards a game you'd need. So I kind of like that a lot.
I like that a lot.
His line weekly is going to be set at almost 70 yards per game. So
yeah, absolutely. It's going to be that 60 to 70 yard range every game.
I guess a lot of that factors in is they never expect a player to play all 17. It's pretty rare. So I guess they're expecting.
Yeah, but he barely misses games. I think he's played almost every game in his career. He's one of those guys that's terrible.
I mean, that line that would in my books, I'd be factoring him playing 15, 16 games, which I'm sure they take into account for every player. But
good find, Drock. Good find, Drock. I like that one. All right, the Los Angeles Rams overachieving last season, expecting a down year. 10-7 record. Their win total this year is set at 8.5. Not a lot of losses. Carson Wentz, Jordan Fuller, some key adds. Jonah Jackson to play guard, Darius Williams and Tre'Davious White at corner. Cameron Curl at safety, Jimmy Garoppolo, Kobe Parkinson. Last year, they started 3-6 after their bye week. They finished 7-1, with their only loss being to the Baltimore Ravens in overtime. Sean McVay figured it out the bye week. The offense was humming, and they won games despite the lack of talent on defense outside of Aaron Donald. Reagan, can the Rams go back to the playoffs in 2024?
No, I got them going 7-10. I'm buying into the first half of the season last year, Rams, not the second half. I really just think they were overachieving. I think teams are going to adjust. I think the schedule's not easy this year. It might start off a little bit easier, but it gets harder down the stretch. I believe in the I believe in the talent of their offense, but defensively, let's not forget they lost Aaron Donald and DC Raheem Morris. So
Yeah.
that scares me a lot because you were able to win a lot of games down the stretch when the defense stepped up because Raheem Morris, great DC, and then obviously you have Aaron Donald. Well, Kobe Turner, guy had 9 sacks last year, big impact rookie. Does he put up those numbers when there's no Aaron Donalds taking on those double teams?
It's a great question.
Obviously, they did go out and address the biggest need, which they know that. They're smart, a lot smarter than we are, but they go out and get teammates from FSU and Jared Verse to play the edge and Braden Fisker to play D tackle. So
Yeah.
they obviously went out and addressed that, pair him with Kobe Turner. So that's huge. But no matter what, none of these guys are Aaron Donald level. So that scares me a lot. Secondary still weak. Linebacker core is still weak. So, but they did get Darius Williams too, like you said before. So they obviously are making big strides. I like how they went out and got another guard to pair with. They re-signed Kevin Dotson, and then they get Jonah Jackson to pair with them. So I do like that. But to me, it's just going to be too big of a loss losing Raheem Morris and Aaron Donald, where I think the defense is going to go back to what we saw in the first half of the year, a team that bleeds points. And, I'm still a little worried about Matt Stafford and his health and stuff. I mean, ever since the Super Bowl, he has dealt with injuries after injuries. And then obviously Jimmy G is made of glass as well. So it's not like, oh, they got Jimmy G. Like, he's not a durable guy either. So if either of those guys are to miss time, I mean, Stetson Bennett, is he going to step in? Is he even on that roster anymore?
I don't know.
Obviously, I like Kupp and Nacua, but
yeah, I mean, I got the Rams
yeah,
at 9-8.
But yeah,
I got the Rams at 9-8, Reagan.
Making the
barely over 500. I don't know if 9-8's getting in the NFC yet. I gotta, we still gotta look. I still gotta go through the NFC North and really, really break it down and sit down. They're fringe playoff for me, and it's because of Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, and their offensive weapons. It's a similar team for me with like the Cardinals. They're better than the Cardinals, but I don't like the defense at all. They did get Verse and Fisk to play on the defensive line, but they're needing multiple guys to pick up the slack with Aaron Donald no longer there. And I love that you mentioned Kobe Turner was really good as a rookie, like a diamond in the rough, but now he's got no more Aaron Donald. So it's a great point. Offensively, I mean, how can you not love Kupp and Nacua, one of the best wide receiver duos in the league? Kyron led the league in yards per game, had 1,000 yards in only 12 games last year, which was awesome. Puka had 1,400 yards, was sick. I mean, Kupp's got to return healthy finally. We haven't seen him healthy in 2 full years, basically. So I do like the offense. The O-line was good. I mean, it was supposed to be really bad last year, but they found some diamonds in the rough. Steve Avila's moving from guard to center. He was good. Alaric Jackson allowed 1 sack as the left tackle. Jonah Jackson comes over from Detroit. Was not the same guy last year. He is a former Pro Bowler, though. He was 34th amongst all guards, according to PFF. So solid offensive line. Stafford is 36 years old, though, but I think is going to have a big year. It's just the defense holding it back for me as well. Darius Williams was really good for Jacksonville last season. Tre'Davious White, big name on paper, but just hasn't been healthy in years. Russ Yeast is okay at safety. It's just a really young defense that is going to need a lot of young bucks to step up if they're going to be successful. I don't know. I just think it's a team that's going to score a lot of points, be in a lot of close games, win close games because of the experience of Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford. 9-8, though, I don't think they have a higher ceiling than what they did last year.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree that the ceiling is definitely not higher than last year. And I think a lot of last year was the perfect storm and adjustments were made, but adjustments go both ways. And I'm expecting it to be on the opposition this year that they're going to kind of figure it out more. I think Kyron is going to regress. I think Puka will regress in the yardage reception standpoint. I think he'll still be elite, top 12 guy, but I think some of that factors have to do with Kupp being healthy. But I think Kupp's going to have a way better year this year, just based off of health. So, but
yeah. I mean, Cooper Kupp's a guy in fantasy right now that his stock is low. that if you're a team that's in win now mode, I would try to get Kupp at a cheap price. Even if it's in Dynasty, I think he's going to have a bounce back season for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I can't imagine his price being high, and even in redrafts, I'd imagine he's like a 4th, 5th round pick right now. I mean, Puka and Kyron are the guys that are getting they're the ones getting all the respect and getting pushed up to that back end first round, early second round capital right now.
Yeah. MVP, Reagan.
Yeah, it's Matt Stafford. Let's be honest here. I mean,
Yeah,
the
it's
team
Stafford.
goes as far
Not
as he
much to
does.
debate.
Yeah, if he gets injured, I mean, Jimmy G will step in. Team won't be good. So, obviously, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. If they're to get in the playoffs, it's because he's healthy and he's playing at an elite level. If they miss, either he's injured or he's just, back end of his career.
X Factor.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the defensive side because there's so many different. We kind of know what the offense is, and the defense is kind of the X factor of this team right now. I'm gonna go with Tre'Davious White. They gave him a cheap contract. He's a guy that we've seen I believe he's been an All-Pro multiple times back with Buffalo. So if he can become healthy and even get back to some semblance of that, it's huge for the secondary. I mean, you got Darius Williams. He's coming off a good year with Jacksonville. If you compare him with a Tre'Davious White that is even like Pro Bowl level or solid level, staying healthy, I mean, that's a huge X factor that'll really have a big impact on this defense. I mean, the secondary was bleeding points a lot last year. So, and obviously there's no Aaron Donald to hide the secondary issues this year. I mean, we can say, oh, how good it is that they spent a 1st and 2nd round pick to address the D line, but it doesn't mean it's going to work out. So he has to be the X factor. He needs to step up.
Yeah, I went with the young defensive line. Kobe Turner, 9 sacks last year. Byron Young, 8 sacks last year. Both rookies. That looks really good. Now you draft Braden Fisk and you draft Jared Verse. 2 more young bucks stepping in. They're going with the approach of we need multiple guys to pick up that production that Aaron Donald is leaving behind. If that young front struggles, teams are going to feast on this defense. If that young front can develop together and Turner and Young could repeat their success from last season, this team will be a lot more competitive than people think, and they could make a run in the playoffs. It's that young defensive line for me. Rookie of the year. Which one of the pass rushers you going with? Unless you're going Blake Corum, but
no.
I can't see that.
No. I'll go with Jared Verse just because I think he'll have the higher chance out of the two to be a big sacks guy. I mean, he has the potential to not only have the most sacks out of the two of them, but on the whole team. I'm not going to sit here and say Kobe Turner's a lock to do that or Byron Young. So to me, Jared Verse, it will have the bigger impact year one, but I think they both will have the opportunity and both will have big impacts barring injury.
I'm going to go Braden Fisk. I don't think Verse is going to be a bad player, but it took him a while to break out in college. He did play 5 years in college. He struggled more so against better competition at Florida State and feasted and had a lot of sacks against worse competition. So I think he might struggle out of the gate where Braden Fisk can be that presence in the interior that they so desperately need right now. So I'm going to go with Fisk for Rookie of the Year. I don't know. I don't think he'll have a better career than Verse, though. All right, your depoy, Reagan.
Yeah, mine's Ernest Jones. I mean, this guy was a machine tackling last year, I believe.
He was 4th most run stuffs in the league last season at linebacker. He had a tackle on 27.9% of run defense snaps, which was 1st amongst all linebackers.
Yeah, he had 145 tackles too. I mean, Bobby Wagner was that run stopper 2 years ago. He stepped right into that role, had a huge impact. I mean, this is a defense lacking a lot of talent, a lot of young guys with potential, but until they prove it, you can't sit here and say it. But he's one of the proven commodities on this team right now, so he's going to have to step up even more now that Aaron Donald's going to be gone. I expect more runs getting to the second level.
Yeah, I'm going to go Byron Young. I just think his production last year is going to be more easy to replicate than Kobe Turner, that he's not lined up right next to Aaron Donald, and he's playing on the edge, so he's more so on an island. So I'm going to go with Young. If he can get that double-digit sack mark, I think it'd be huge for this Rams defense. Drock, what's your lock?
AW in the chat.
You guys are probably going to hate me for this, but I'm going to give you what I'm thinking is what's going to actually have to happen for this to hit. So I got Kyron Williams to record a 200-plus rushing yards in one regular season game.
What are the odds?
It's plus 475. Not great odds. But hear me out. He had multiple 150-yard games last year. And I think if he has like 150-ish and they may go to overtime or something like that, I think he could touch it. 475 is not as juicy as I would like to hit it on. But that's my lock
Where'd
for
you find that?
DraftKings.
That's crazy. That's just goes to show you could bet on
Crazy
literally
future bet.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I definitely don't hate it. I mean, he's a guy that got a ton of volume last year. I mean, as long as Blake Corum isn't super involved, which I'm not worried about it. I think he's more of a depth piece to give Kyron a blow. But I think there's going to be games, like you said, where it's turning into a shootout or it goes into overtime and he has a couple big runs. So I don't hate it at all, Dave. I mean, hey, you got 17 games to do it. I don't know. Does it specify on it like playoffs or anything like that?
Yeah, it's regular season. It's got to be.
Yeah, regular season. Yeah.
Okay. Well, still, hey, 17 games to do it. I don't hate it.
I don't hate
would've
it
liked
either.
better odds, but I guess it just speaks to what Vegas thinks, and I think he has a solid chance to do it because it's probably the best odds out of most running backs to do that.
Yeah, and Corum just didn't look the same last year, recovering from that knee injury. So to be determined on if he gets that explosiveness back in his rookie year. But yeah, I don't see Corum as too much of a threat. I mean, I think Kyron's workload will be a little bit less, but he could still go for 200 in any game.
Yeah, and I think people are getting way too worried about Corum. I mean, I definitely wouldn't pass on Kyron in the second round because of Corum. I mean, he's going to be the red zone guy. He had a nose at the end zone. He had 15 touchdowns last year. He wasn't super involved in the passing games. You'd like to see that go up more this year. But, I mean, teams, and especially running backs position, it's the biggest turnover rate in the NFL. I mean, teams go through running backs. Obviously, it's the most dangerous position. You're getting hit the most out of any position. So it's never a bad thing to have a depth piece. So it doesn't have to be they don't have faith in Kyron. It could be a more like, hey, it's a position where you're going to get hurt a lot. Injury risk is way higher here. Let's get a guy that could be a depth piece, not have to run our guy into the ground. And historically, Sean McVay's relied on one guy. So if you go off the history, Kyron will have that opportunity. And I think the only way we really have to worry about him is if he's playing bad. Therefore, it leads to Corum's role expanding, or if injuries. I don't think Corum's going to play himself into the role. I think it would be Kyron getting injured or playing himself out of the role, just going off of McVay's history at the running back position, kind of like last year where Cam Akers played himself out of the position with injuries, off the field stuff, just, a lot of different things.
I agree, Reagan. Let's move on to the runner-ups from last year. The San Francisco 49ers going 12-5 last year. Their win total this year, 11.5. Some key losses, a lot amongst the defensive line. Eric Armstead, Chase Young, Javon Kinlaw, Randy Gregory, and then Sam Darnold. Key adds, Malik Collins, Leonard Floyd, Yetur Gross-Matos, Devondre Campbell. So a lot of defensive linemen coming in. Reagan, I know you have the Niners making the playoffs, but what's their win total going to be this year?
Yeah, I got them going 13-4, so they're going to have a good year. I believe that ends up putting them at the 1 seed for me. So, I mean, this is just a team similar to the Cowboys, just without the choke jobs, I guess, but where they just dominate the teams they should in the regular season. They're putting up crazy numbers. I mean, when they've got to go against a bad team, you can expect 40 points. I mean, and the crazy thing is last year, and the reason I go off a lot of last year is they didn't really lose a ton. And you just highlighted all the guys they lost, they kind of replaced with guys of the same tier. I mean, Eric Armstead's going to hurt, but the rest of them you kind of replaced with guys that are in that same tier. But I mean, this team averaged 28.9 points per game, and defensively, they only let up 17.5. So those splits are crazy. I mean, that's plus 12 differential almost there.
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, they're top 3 against the run. They were top 5 in takeovers and turnovers. I mean, they were just elite on both sides. They're one of the few teams that were elite offensively and defensively, just like the Chiefs, elite offensively and defensively. That's why we saw both teams in the Super Bowl, and that's why I'd say there's a very good chance we see both teams going very far again this year. But Brock Purdy, best quarterback in the league in terms of QBR last year. I don't know if a lot of people realize that. Like, we say how good he was, but he really was that good. I mean, passing yards over 4,200. Aiyuk, I know we talked about a little bit earlier, but it's pretty clear to me at this point, and it should be to most people, that Debo's more the name where people have that conversation. But Aiyuk is the one in this offense. It's not a 1A, 1B. It's a 1 and a 2. And Pearsall will probably be that 3. But Aiyuk is clear-cut number 1 wide receiver in this offense. 7 All-Pros last year is freaking crazy. I mean, just speaks to how elite they were. And then one more thing I saw Fred Warner and Drake Greenlaw both having over 120 tackles is ridiculous. I mean, I find it crazy when one guy does that on a team, but to have two linebackers that are just making that many tackles. And just one negative I can say, Nick Bosa had a major step back last year. I saw he only had 10.5 sacks, which is good for most players, but not a guy
Not
that
for
was
Bosa.
not for a guy who you're talking about as the best edge rusher. So if he wants to get back in that conversation, he's got to be closer to 20 than 10. But yeah, I still got him going 13-4. I mean, McCaffrey's going to be the engine that runs this offense, and I don't see Brock Purdy taking a step back. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like if they lose Aiyuk, though.
Yeah, I got 12-5. Not a lot of negatives here. We're still waiting for the Aiyuk drama to unfold at the time of this recording, so we'll see. I mean, the Niners, led by Kyle Shanahan, he's an offensive genius. They led the league in yards after the catch the last 6 seasons, so he can really scheme up his guys to get open, and their playmakers are so good after the catch. McCaffrey last year, over 2,000 yards, 21 touchdowns. What more has to be said? The offensive line is good. Trent Williams is the best left tackle in football. George Kittle is the best blocking tight end in football, so McCaffrey is almost a lock to score every game. He will be again this year. Like Reagan highlighted earlier, Purdy led the league in QBR, also yards per attempt and touchdown rate. The only knock on Purdy, which he still hasn't quieted these doubts, is when the Niners are actually losing games, how can he perform if he's dropping back to pass? He's 22nd in passer rating when they're losing games, and that drops to 33rd when they're losing in the second half. Not ideal. When you start playing those games in January, February, you're not just steamrolling through everyone in the regular season. That's when it's going to matter. So Purdy did have some nice moments last year when they were down, but still hasn't quieted those doubts. They lost 3 of their 4 games last season against top 10 defenses, and Purdy was not nearly as good. So that's another thing I'm keeping an eye on this year, especially if Aiyuk's not in the picture. Defensively, yeah, I mean, Fred Warner, arguably the best linebacker in football. They got a couple guys recovering from injury that I'm really interested to see when they come back. Drake Greenlaw, that Achilles, that crazy injury in the Super Bowl, just jumping up and down before going out in the field. Talisu Funga was a stud before he tore his knee up, so hopefully he can get back soon in the back end. They added a bunch of guys to the defensive line rotation. Malik Collins is solid, had 5 sacks in Houston last year. Leonard Floyd has averaged 10 sacks per season over his last 4, so very underrated. I like that pickup opposite Bosa. Travarius Ward, stud at corner. He's looked really good since they brought him over from the Chiefs. It just sucks for him that he lost the Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year. And Jair Brown, 3rd-round pick last year, showed a lot of promise at safety. So I like the pieces they got on defense. Just when did they get Greenlaw and Hufanga back? But, yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just a little bit concerned about how the offense is going to look without Aiyuk, but still, there's too many guys here. They'll still be successful. 12 wins, easy lock for the playoffs, minus 500, slam it.
Yeah, and I will say something that kind of confused me a little bit from an outsider perspective. Why did they fire Steve Wilkes as the DC? I mean, he didn't get picked from elsewhere, but to me, it's weird because they had one of the best defenses last year. You can make a case the best defense. Obviously, like you just highlighted, it's in the Super Bowl. Yeah, they let up a lot of points to the Chiefs, but you lose one of your best linebackers to a freak injury early on, and then Hufanga didn't even play. So, you're dealing with injuries. It's not like you got the full roster out there. I mean, 17.5 points a game allowed. That's elite in today's NFL. I mean, it's not like back in the day where it should be lower if you want to be elite, you got to be lower, like almost 10 points a game. So in an offensive friendly league, that's pretty freaking good. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not super locked in with the 49ers like that I'd have a fan's perspective of why he's gone, but that's one that really was a head scratcher to me.
Yeah, I thought Shanahan said it was for schematic reasons. He wanted to run the defense differently, which I don't know if I'm buying it. There could be some behind the scenes. I'm not sure, but it was strange when you lose in the Super Bowl and the defense was that good.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that's gotten the short end of the stick a few times now. I mean, go back to Arizona getting fired after one season, pretty rare. Obviously, the Panthers coached them up. When he came in as an intern, started to play well, didn't even get the job then. After the fact, they go with Frank Wright. So he's a guy, it seems that it just keeps getting the short end of the stick.
Absolutely. All right, your MVP for the Niners, Reagan.
Yeah, it's McCaffrey. I mean, dude had over 2,000 all-purpose yards last year. Touchdown machine. I mean, one of the few guys that was like negative 300 every week to score a touchdown anytime. When it was the first touchdown, he was one of the closest guys to being even odds. Kind of hated him getting on the wheel because I'm a greedy whore. And when you get plus 230 first touchdown. It's like,
You're like,
yeah.
doesn't really get me excited.
I don't get excited for that.
I need
It's
a
like,
plus
cool.
800 Michael Mayer.
Yeah. Give me some real dough here. I don't want to throw my mortgage on this one, but the guy's going to be a stud as long as barring injuries. He's going to probably put up another 2,000-yard season. The touchdowns will be there. I mean, it seems like every time they get to the red zone, he's either getting a carry or they're scheming something up for him to get the ball in his hands. I mean, 7 receiving touchdowns as a running back just speaks to how dynamic he is.
Yeah, it's McCaffrey, dude. How do you argue it? He had 21 touchdowns last year. He's a beast. He's clear and cut the number 1 running back in all of football. He does it in the receiving game as well. It's Christian McCaffrey. X Factor, Reagan.
Yeah, I mean, you could go a couple different options here, but I would say Brock Purdy. I mean, like you highlighted earlier, can he get it done when they're down, when they're going against that top-tier competition? Yet to be proven. Lost to the Chiefs, obviously that freak injury to the Eagles. So can he finally take that next step and get them the Super Bowl win? They have the roster to get there. We know that. He has all the pieces around him. They're not paying him anything, so he's the biggest X factor here is if he can take him to that next level because it's always the quarterback that's got to be that final piece that you need to push you across the finish line. And they got him, but he's got to prove that he can be him.
Yeah, I mean, Purdy's a good pick. Purdy really, his only concern for me is when trailing. He's shown that he can run the Shanahan offense better than any quarterback that's played it so far. So I think he's legit. I don't think he's a top 8 quarterback. Certainly not talent-wise, but he's really good mentally. He could really process the defense. He gets the ball out at the right time. He's accurate, so he runs the ship really well. For me, I went Ricky Pearsall as the X factor with an asterisk that is assuming Brandon Aiyuk is traded. Pearsall stepping into the number 2 role. Some people thought he was a reach a little bit. Never really put it together in college, but has great physical tools. He's long, he's fast. He's made some highlight reel catches. If he's thrust in that Aiyuk role, can this offense still hum on all cylinders like it did last year? Or do they take a significant step back? If Ricky Pearsall can live up to that first-round draft status, it's going to make losing Aiyuk hurt a lot less. Rookie of the year, Reagan.
I don't know, because obviously Ricky Pearsall just went down with the injury, but I mean, they don't really have a ton of other guys there. I mean, obviously they drafted Renardo Green out of Florida State. I know Dominic Pooney, the tackle out of Kansas, they drafted is projected. They're moving him to right guard, I believe I saw.
Yes.
He's a projected starter. So I guess I'd say him just because it's a good offensive line already. So if he can come in and be another staple there, really establish a run. And it's easy to look good when you have weapons like that around you and you're putting up 30-something points a game. It's easy to hide it because I remember a guy like Lincoln Tomlinson, he excelled there. Then he came to the Jets and was ass. Got cut 2 years into his big deal. Now he's on the Rams. So I don't know. I think it's a lot easier to hide it, but I think it's either him or Pearsall. So
yeah, I went Pearsall, Sticky Ricky. I just think he's going to have to play a lot. He's going to get thrust into that starting lineup when Aiyuk's gone. Renardo Green, he was good last year in coverage, really good, but it was his 5th year. Took him to his 5th year to break out, so not super encouraging there. I don't love Pooney. He was not very good at run blocking in college. He does have 5-position flexibility, though, so he should get on the field, but I'm not sold on him as a player. And then Isaac Guerrero, the fast guy that they got, the running back, ran the 4.3, one of the fastest running backs in the league now, but the Niners have just not had a good history of drafting running backs and them hitting. So I'm not really sold on him either. I don't really love this draft class, to be honest with you. I'm going to go Ricky Sticky out of Florida, baby. Go Gators. All right, Drock. What's the lock? Sticky Ricky.
Drock's last
why do
pick
you
of the night.
Why do you do like the ESPN rumble?
Who got traded?
ESPN. You just
who got traded?
Like the breaking
Did
news.
Brandon Aiyuk just get traded? Did Brandon Aiyuk just get traded?
Dave's gonna have a Brandon Aiyuk stat right here, I bet.
No,
we're all saying he's about to get traded.
I would love it if he was getting traded.
This one I absolutely love. I will be throwing my hard-earned money on this because, Colin, we discussed this before in our living room, but the San Francisco 49ers to score 1+ rushing TD in every regular season game at plus 2,200. I don't have stats to back it up. With Christian McCaffrey on the goddamn field, it could happen every game. And I mean, what'd you say, Colin? He hasn't scored a touchdown. What?
I believe he's played 29 regular season games with the Niners. Or no, maybe 29 total games. And he's only not scored in 6 of them. But also with the Niners, you have the threat of Debo rushing one in as well. Or even Purdy. A little scramble.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that at all. I mean, obviously, you'd think it would hit. All it takes is for one fluke game for it to not hit. But, I mean, I'm looking at it right now. McCaffrey had a rushing touchdown in every game, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the games. But that didn't mean they didn't get a rushing touchdown still.
Yeah.
Plus 2,200. That's crazy. I'd say
So-
no if it was plus 5, but plus
Yeah, they did
2,200.
against the Browns. I could try to look real quick. So yeah, I mean, obviously, when your running back's getting a touch, with McCaffrey, you know he's going to get a high volume. So at least 5 games left. They did it against the Browns. I mean, I could try to look at this quick.
They also they got out to so many big leads last year that even if McCaffrey had a receiving touchdown, the backup comes in and runs one in at the end. That's always in play as well because this team scores a ton of points.
Yep, they did it against Washington. They definitely did it, bro.
It's juicy. Plus 2,200.
Did it. It's very juicy. I mean, the team had, let's see how many rushing touchdowns they had. I mean, McCaffrey alone had 14. They had 27 rushing touchdowns last year.
Wow.
So Debo had 5 of them, bro.
Yeah. The threat of Debo being there just makes it that much better of a bet.
Yeah.
Especially if there's no Aiyuk, because they might have to use him more in that sense. Get the ball in his hands.
I'm assuming they did it last year. I mean, I obviously I could be missing a game, but I'm assuming they did it last year, right? I mean, probably should have had you look that up prior, but still with the odds, even if they didn't, it's really just banking on one fluke game, which it doesn't look like they had.
It's worth a dart throw. All right, Reagan, you want to rip this draft now to close out the pod?
Yeah, we can. I believe you're picking first this time.
It is my pick. Are you ready?
I am.
I think it's pretty simple. Consensus: Christian McCaffrey, number 1.
Really? That was easy for you to take?
Yeah,
the guy who had
21
rushing touchdowns last year. That was
2,000 total yards
for you.
Yeah, pretty easy. You get Kyron Williams though, so you're chilling with that.
I did find out they did not have against the Bucs. They did not have a rushing touchdown, but still,
1 game.
That's all it takes. I mean, that's all it takes. But still, 16 out of the 17 games. I mean, it's pretty unlikely. And even in that game, they had 27 points. So just happened that they didn't need to run the ball, and it was also against the Bucs, who are one of the best teams against the run.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so I went CMC. Who are you going with? Back to back.
Oh, who do I want? Give me. See, I could have gone him there, but I can just wait. I will go with Puka Nacua as my wide receiver, and then I'll go Trey McBride at my tight end.
I knew you were going McBride.
What kind of man would I be?
No, you had to go McBride, bro. You were gassing him up so much earlier. You had to go McBride.
Yep.
Okay. So I need to go with a receiver here. You went Puka. Are we assuming Brandon Aiyuk is gone, or is he a part of this draft?
No, he counts. Count him for this. He's still on the team, so.
Okay. I'm going to go Brandon Aiyuk and Matthew Stafford.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go with the 49ers defense, really lock up one of those top defenses.
I like that pick out of you.
And then for my wide receiver number 2, I will go with Debo, and I'm going to assume that Brandon Ayuk's gone, so this guy's going to be
That's so cheeky, bro. That's so cheeky.
Even if he's not gone, I mean, he's going to get his. He has the rushing upside. I mean, he had 5 rushing touchdowns alone, adding that to all the receiving work. So stacking him in as my wide receiver 2 with Puka. Don't hate it at all.
Debo had 12 total touchdowns last year, 892 receiving, but 225 rushing. So we did eclipse 1,000. I like the pick. All right, I'm going to go DK Metcalf as my wide receiver 2. Big bounce back out of DK this year. So now I have both receivers. I have my running back. I have my quarterback. So I need tight end and defense. Both. I mean, you have your tight end. You have your defense. I'll go George Kittle.
Yeah, no, it's a good pick. I'll go Kyler Murray as my quarterback 1, pair him with Trey McBride, hoping that rushing ability will come back, which I think it will. You recovered from the injury, so you expect more rushing upside. Plus, I mean, hey, he's got better weapons, but that stack's not bad. And then for my running back, give me Kyron Williams. I mean, who would have thought I would have got him in the 6th round? What a pick. What a pick.
Yeah, you know,
Gotta
when you
love
take
it.
McCaffrey #1, there's no flex. If we added a flex, it'd make it more interesting.
Yeah, maybe we should add a flex for the next time. But for this time, I mean, hey, it's a pretty scary roster right there.
I'll close it out with Seattle defense. All right. I don't hate it. Stafford, McCaffrey, Aiyuk, DK Metcalf, George Kittle, Seattle defense.
Yeah, so that gives me Kyler, Kyron, Puka, Debo, Trey McBride, and the 49ers. I'd safe to say I won this draft.
That's
But
a good
hey,
draft. That's a good
we'll
draft.
post it on social media. We'll see.
Yeah,
We
we'll
gotta
let the
post other
people
ones still.
decide. We'll let the people decide.
Yeah, Drock, did you have a fantasy lock? Anything
I think
you like?
I think Reagan won that draft. So
Dave,
No, I
you
like
don't even know
that.
half the guys are in this division, so I don't really care about your opinion.
whoa! This will be Drock's 3rd year watching the NFL this year, so I don't want to hear shit. All right?
We don't hire this guy for his ball knowledge. He's just a talent on the camera.
Yeah,
Not gonna, doing some research for my team picks actually makes me like realize which teams are in which division. So if anything, I'm gaining some experience in 12 years.
Hell yeah. Dave, you got any fantasy locks? Any guys you're targeting or expecting big years from? I know you said ETN last time.
In the division?
Yeah.
Dave's like, do I have any of these guys on my roster?
Yeah, I'm gonna go DK Metcalf. Yeah.
He's like, I got DK Metcalf.
Hey, man.
So DK will be thrown in. What I missed last year is taking season-long futures for guys receiving yards and rushing yards. I want to parlay like 4 of them, but I know that DK plus DK getting over 1,000 is going to be in there.
Really?
So that's going to be
slammed.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Drock, for that fantasy lock. Really appreciate it. Reagan, I can't tell if you're still here or not because your face is frozen as hell, my friend. Yeah, it looks like Reagan's gone. So from Reagan, thanks for tuning in. We still have polos for sale. So hit us up if you want a golf polo that we rocked at the golf outing. Reagan, thanks for being with us today, buddy. We'll catch you later in the week.